Hey everybody, what's going on? Today is March 19th, 2020. The mainstream media reported today that actor Daniel Dae Kim, most famous for his role on the current television series Hawaii Five-0, has been diagnosed with coronavirus. In this video, I'm going to go over the numerology of this actor, the state of Hawaii where the show took place. And we're also going to compare this to the numerology of another major actor who also goes by the name Daniel Dae. You may have heard of him, Sir Daniel Day-Lewis, widely acclaimed as one of the greatest actors in cinematic history. And if you've seen past videos, you see that this is a common theme. The news will run a story about one guy who has a very similar name to a more famous actor, who the story is truly a numeric tribute to. So let's get into this a little bit, and then towards the end of this video, I'm going to talk about more about coronavirus and how this is being framed by the media, as well as a perfect example of how the media is stoking ridiculous fears about this disease. So, of course, in order to convince the U.S. population that COVID-19 is far more dire than it really is, they continue to pump out one news story after another about celebrities being diagnosed. I've done a work on a couple of those. Please check the links down below for my post on Tom Hanks and Rita Wilson, the first celebrities, and major ones at that, to be diagnosed with this virus. Also, Rudy Gobert, a player for the Utah Jazz, who was responsible for the NBA suspending its season on the same date the World Health Organization decided to call this disease a pandemic. I also want to touch a little bit on the WWE, who recently canceled WrestleMania 36, actually relocating the event away from Raymond James Stadium in Tampa to the WWE Performance Center, also in Florida. So, of course, there's only been 11,000 cases of coronavirus confirmed so far in the United States. However, we're starting to see a high percentage of those people being famous people, more than you would suspect given the numbers. Now, granted, famous people are probably more at risk for contracting such a disease since they travel more often, maybe interact with more people. But this is something we will continue to see, and I assure you it's always going to be by the numbers. Remember, this operation is about mind control of the public. And I want to point something out about mind control, which also, interestingly, equals 56 in reduction, just like coronavirus. Using the standard alphabetic order, our most basic English Gematria cipher, which simply numbers the alphabet 1 through 26, A through Z, each number relative to its position in the alphabet. Using this simple method, mind control has a numeric value of 137. The word government, also summing to 137, this time using the reverse alphabetic order, where Z is assigned 1 through A as 26. And understand, the word government is made up of two words coming from the Latin language. Govern, which comes from the word gubernare. Think about gubernatorial elections where the governor is elected. Gubernare means to control. The word ment is a suffix meaning of the mind. So this word literally means mind control. It also has the same gematria as mind control. In Hebrew gematria, you may notice that the word COVID-19, intriguingly, summing to 137 as well. I actually have to verify this. I think that might be the wrong Hebrew word, but what I want to point out is that 137 is the 33rd prime number. 33, the master teacher number. Of course, the 33rd degree of Masonry is said to be the highest. Masonry sums to 33. Masonry will be employing the police in the coming months here as this police state ramps up and communities start instituting curfews. Using the reverse alphabetic order, the word corona, summing to 33. And this virus is a play on words and has a lot to do with the sun. Of course, the corona of the sun is the only part that you see during a total solar eclipse. This disease hitting the United States right around the halfway point between the two great American total solar eclipses, the first in 2017, the second one in 2020. 20. Notice how in Jewish Gematria, this cipher based on the Latin alphabetic order, which I've been showing is extremely significant to this entire coronavirus ritual, the word sun summing to 330 in Jewish Gematria. So an important thing to keep in mind here is that the name Daniel Dae Kim is a given name. This is not this Korean actor's birth name. His real name is Kim Dae-hyun, so this change of his name is deliberate and certainly purposeful in relation to this ritual related to Daniel Day-Lewis. The one name he shares in both his birth and stage names is Kim. Using the alphabetic order, the name Kim sums to 33. According to this article, he was an actor in Lost and Hawaii 5-0. And notice how Hawaii is one of just a handful of states, I believe 3, to sum to 33 in the reduction method. So we mentioned the corona, the symbolism of the sun, and with so many people around the world being locked down into their own homes, it's kind of funny that they named it coronavirus. It's as if people are literally afraid of the sun, literally afraid of going outside. That's the sad reality we're currently living in here in 2020. Well, I want to point out that in English Sumerian Gematria, which multiplies the alphabetic order by 6, the number of time, the name Kim Dae-hyun, his birth name, sums to 666. In reverse Sumerian Gematria, the state of Hawaii also has this value of 666. Consider the gematria of the name Kim Dae-hyun. Kim Dae-hyun sums to 48 and 51 in our standard reduction methods. This stands out for a couple reasons. First of all, he was born on August 4th, the date written 4/8 internationally. Last year, he turned 51 years old on a date with 51 numerology. He's still 51 years old. Hawaii in the alphabetic order equals 51. What's really interesting to me about this story is that it comes out 138 days before his next birthday. This man's stage name, Daniel Dae Kim, sums to 138 in Jewish Gematria. Also notice how Kim equals 138 in the Satanic method. Because this year is a leap year, March 19th, the date of this news story, falls on the 79th day of the year. Also stands out because the name Daniel equals 79. Now this brings us to our pal Daniel Day-Lewis, who perhaps is best known for playing Lincoln. Notice how Lincoln equals 79. Not sure if that's related, but worth pointing out. What definitely is worth pointing out is that 79 is a prime number. That would be the 22nd prime number, and 22 is one of the primary numbers driving this coronavirus ritual. Coronavirus pandemic dominating the news in the year 2020, and this has a gematria value of 2020. 22 in numerology is the master builder number, which sums to 220, and the year 2020 is when they're attempting to build, literally, a new society based on this disease. They're doing it under the leadership of Donald John Trump, 220. The head of FEMA right now, Peter Thomas Gaynor, also with that 220 gematria. Daniel Day-Lewis was born in 1957 in the month of April, meaning that he's currently 62 years old. In reduction, Daniel Day-Lewis sums to 62. This is the same value as the alphabetic order sum of disease, summing to 62. This news story published on a date with 62 numerology. 3 plus 19 plus 20 plus 20. How perfect. Hopefully Daniel Day-Lewis is enjoying his retirement one of these rare actors who retires before while he can still walk. And, this stands out because his last film was called Phantom Thread. And notice how this also equals 62. Again, I believe I need to verify the Hebrew value of this, so I'll double check that. But important to note that coronavirus sums to 56. Remember, it was declared a national emergency here on the 13th of March, a date with primary numerology of 56. Also the date that can be written 1303. And in Jewish Gematria, coronavirus, giving us that 1303. Well, talking about Daniel Day-Lewis again, what I found interesting about this news story in regards to the numerology about it is that the news story comes out 5 weeks and 6 days before Daniel Day-Lewis turns 63 years old. And here we get a story about an actor from Hawaii Five-0, which sums to 63 in both of our reduction methods. This 1698 in Jewish Gematria reminds me of something else. I think it's Society of Jesus. Yep. And the numbers 16 and 98 both relate to the circle or pi code. Pi equals 16, and pi is 3.14, which equals 98. So, Society of Jesus summing to 1698. Hopefully that makes some sense. Not trying to get sidetracked here, though. But here's something I want to point out, and maybe this is just food for thought here. Something I do on this channel occasionally. They keep telling us that these actors are being diagnosed with coronavirus, right? Now, if you scan this article, and he says he has COVID-19, but be careful when they report this, because remember, coronavirus, in the vast, vast majority of cases, just results in a common cold. It's the disease COVID-19, which is allegedly the angel of death for old people, so we're told, even though it's about barely a 10% death rate for people in their 80s, which is barely higher than the standard flu. I wanted to point out this CNN article as well, where they're bashing Republican Senator Ron Johnson, who happens to be from my home state of Wisconsin. And look at how they manipulate the numbers here to make this thing look way, way worse than it really is. Ron Johnson recently stated that between 1 and 3.4% of the population are at risk of death from contracting this disease. The remaining 97, 99%, they're going to get through it, develop immunities, and move beyond it. And then CNN says, wait a minute, if it's 1% of the American population that's going to die, well, that means 3.3 million people would die. And CNN is using this to state that, hey, this is the real seriousness of the issue, is 3.3 million people, but this is assuming that literally everybody gets it, right? Realistically, they were telling us just a few days ago that we could see several million infected. They keep changing this number all the time, and they'll keep changing it, of course. Well, if that was the case, then it would be a couple 100,000 people dying from it. And again, are you really going to shut down the entire world because a couple of 100,000 people who are probably really old, who probably already have underlying health conditions, might lose their lives? That's part of life, man. We all live and die, and some of us are going to die sooner than others. We just got to live with it. To accept martial law for this is still so absurd, but if you want to hear me rant, feel free to just check the video history on my channel. I got a pretty long rant that I did this morning on it. So again, just another example of how these numbers are being grossly manipulated by the media to make it seem like so many people are going to die and lose their lives, and just playing on everybody's fear. These articles make me more sick than this stupid virus ever could. I guarantee it. I'm very happy to be on the news, this man, Daniel Day Kim. Looks real ill, doesn't he? All right, so what I think people need to pay more attention to when it comes to decoding and exposing this code is the WWE. Now, the WWE is fascinating in the sense that it's the one major sport in America that is known to be staged and scripted, whereas at least the majority of games in leagues like the NFL and when you look at the championship teams, these are all laid out in advance when it comes to sports. And WWE is some sort of experiment for this, it seems. And understand, in a period of time where no sports anywhere are being played, the WWE is the one major promotion that's still holding events, and they're holding events in empty arenas. So this is one of those things that's really driving home, especially to the youth, of how serious this disease really is, and it's supposed to implant an image in people's heads. So it's interesting to me that WrestleMania, this just happens to fall on WrestleMania 36. As I pointed out in my post about Daniel Day Kim, the coronavirus is all about the sun. And in astronomy, each planet, or at least the major ones, Saturn and closer, including the sun and the moon, all have their own magic square. And what we're looking at on the left is the magic square of the sun. This containing 36 squares, giving us a sum of 666. So 36 squares in the magic square of the sun, and here we are with this significant event, WrestleMania 36, canceled due to the sun virus. This cancellation was announced on the 16th. Notice how this had primary numerology of 59. The word canceled sums to 59. The word cancel on its own equals 38. The 38th prime number is 163, a lot like the date that this cancellation was announced, the 16th of March, 16/3. Now, technically, again, it wasn't canceled, but it has been moved from Raymond James Stadium. Raymond James Stadium is the home of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Notice how Tampa Bay Buccaneers equals 316, the date that the WrestleMania was moved. The 62 stands out. We just talked about this in relation to disease. And don't think it's a coincidence either that WWE canceled this major event at Raymond James Stadium, and then just one day later, Tom Brady signed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And of course, this is a football team that hasn't been relevant since they won the Super Bowl, like 17, 18 years ago, something like that. And it just so happens that they're in the mainstream media just one day before Tom Brady, the biggest player, the greatest of all time, signs with the team. Of course, that's not a coincidence. Just how sports and news are all scripted together. Notice how Buccaneer also gives us this Gematria value of 36. The moon summing to 36. What I noticed about this date that they announced the cancellation also was that it was 36 weeks after the most recent total eclipse, whereas the event itself will be taking place 36 weeks before the next total solar eclipse. Remember, coronavirus, the corona, the only part of the sun seen during a total eclipse. Now, I've been doing a lot of work on 666. Do a simple search on my blog for how I talked about how important this number was to Kobe Bryant. If you multiply 666 times 3, you get a product of 1998. And it just so happens that Raymond James Stadium, where WrestleMania was going to be held, was opened in the year 1998. I've also been doing a lot of work on the number 1331, really for the last couple of years. I mean, I made this post back in January of 2018, for goodness sake. And countless number of times I've referenced back to this post, explaining how deep this eclipse code runs and how important the two total solar eclipses that are crossing over the United States in 2017 and 2024 truly are. And it all dates back to this significant 1331 eclipse, the only one I've ever found whose path of totality never crosses a major body of water. So just to recap, 1331 eclipse equals 1331, also 131 in reduction. And it was on the date November 30th, which is the only date in Jewish Gematria which sums to 1331. 133 summing to 1331, also 331. And there's more to this code. Again, please check the post, but how interesting is it that, we're talking about the coronavirus, which has that 133 part of the code in it, and this is causing a cancellation at Raymond James Stadium. Look at how Raymond James equals 1331 in Jewish Gematria. So it is my belief that this WrestleMania was scheduled in Tampa, knowing that it was going to be canceled ahead of time. It's pretty clear to me that Vince McMahon and whoever's running the WWE are very clearly connected to the dark occult that's running our mainstream media. To further support this, notice how Raymond James Stadium is in the city of Tampa. Check out how Tampa equals 192 in that same cipher. That's the same value as eclipse. Now the 192nd prime number, assuming my site will load this, the 192nd prime number is 1163. And this brings us all the way back around to the gematria of coronavirus, which sums to 1163 in the English extended method. Tampa also has just myriad connections to eclipse numbers. Not only does Tampa equal eclipse, but Tampa sums to the same as moon in reverse. The moon, Raymond James Stadium, Tampa Bay, Florida, all equaling 90. Tampa Bay, even with the same gematria as total eclipse. And this cancellation fell exactly 134 weeks after the first Great American Eclipse. Solar eclipse equals 134. And in reduction, solar eclipse has the same gematria as Tampa, Florida. So again, the WWE definitely part of this whole cabal, definitely bringing it all together. I know there was something else I wanted to cover real briefly in this video. Must not have been too big. Oh, what I forgot to mention in my last video, this is a really big part of this. In my rant from earlier today, I talked about this Clade X exercise. And here it says this occurred in mid-May. If you really dig, you'll find that this exercise occurred on May 15th. Now, the date May 15th is written internationally as 15/5, and yes, this was an international exercise. The date 15/5 is really interesting for this Clade X pandemic exercise because coronavirus equals 155. Remember Bill Gates from Seattle, Washington, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, responsible for the Event 201 pandemic exercise in October of 2019? Bill Gates correctly predicted that we would get some sort of massive coronavirus outbreak. And at that Event 201 gathering, they were literally like giving out coronavirus stuffed animals, celebrating the mind control they'd soon be exercising over the masses. And unfortunately, mind control, which appears to be working, according to my observations of the general public over the past week, truly is a form of madness that people have descended into, and it's kind of concerning. So this exercise, again, held on May 15th of 2018. Remember, coronavirus became a pandemic on the date March 11th in 2020. Or 11/3, 2020. It's right there in the date. Well, if you measure from the date of this exercise to the date that it became a true pandemic, according to the World Health Organization, was exactly 666 days. And look at the gematria of World Health Organization. Keep in mind these two numbers, 275 in English, 2083 in Jewish. Could it possibly be a coincidence that 666 equals 275 in English, 666 equals 2083 in Latin? No way that's a freaking coincidence. Especially considering we already have organizations like the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, which has reverse gematria of 666. All of these big-time government organizations coding themselves with the number of the beast, carrying events out by the number 666. Here we have this satanic gematria method, which satanic gematria equals 666 in this cipher. Think about how fake moon landing equals 666, right? The fake moon landing was in the year 69. Fake moon landing equals 69. It was even on the date July 20th, which equals 69. You could also say it was the 20th of July, which is 69 in reduction. So all of these organizations just constantly lying to us, just lying, just hammering it into your head over and over and over. And, well, if you tell these idiots to believe it often enough and you give them enough bullshit news articles, eventually they'll believe it. And unfortunately for the awake ones out there, it's very much the truth. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap the video up there. Thanks for everybody who jumped in. Remember, now's the time to spread this knowledge because only properly informed people can make proper decisions when it comes to, I don't know, doing what we can to resist this one world government. But best of luck to us, I suppose. All right, guys. Peace, love, God bless, and we'll talk to you next time. See ya!